Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Spinning Back Clique, where each week here on MMA Junkie, we take you on a quick spin through the week's news. Joining me on this week's show are three of Las Vegas's finest. MMA Junkie's lead staff reporter John Morgan is in the house, plus MMA Junkie Radio's Gorgeous George and Goze, and they're all here to bring you through the big talking points of the week. So let's get things started with this past weekend's main event at UFC on ESPN Plus 31, where Derek Brunson proved the doubters wrong with a third-round finish of the previously undefeated Edmund Shabazian. In betting terms, it was a big upset, and a lot of people had picked Shabazian, probably included a few of us on the panel here, heading into this fight. Did people jump the gun with Shabazian, or did they just underestimate Brunson in this fight? And what on earth does this do for the UFC's middleweight division? We'll put 3 minutes on the clock to get things started, and John, you can kick us off.
All right, well, I'll come clean right away. I was one of those guys that picked Edmund Shabazian, so I was wrong. In fact, I even said that, I don't think Derek Brunson will win this fight unless Shabazian has an off night. And I don't think Shabazian did have an off night. I think Derek Brunson was just that good. So I'll say, yeah, I probably underestimated Derek Brunson a little bit. I'm not ready to jump off the Shabazian bandwagon just yet. I do see some skills there. I see some talent, but it looked a little bit of an immature performance to me a little bit. Man, I thought he was kind of over swinging on some opportunities and maybe looking to really go out there and keep that first round finish streak alive when he didn't need to do that. So, I think he wanted to do something spectacular in the moment, whether he admitted it or not. Meanwhile, Derek Brunson, veteran of the game, man, he showed the savvy. He was patient. A couple moments he got out of sorts, but it was a very, very impressive performance for him. So, listen, Shabazian may not have what it takes to be the youngest champion in UFC history, but I do think there are some great days ahead of him. I just think Derek Brunson proved that even at this stage of his career, he's improving.
Absolutely, and the changing camp seems to be doing great things for him. George, what did you make of Brunson's performance on fight night?
Man, he rose to the occasion. What was he, like 15 years older? And you could tell a lot of that experience finally paid off for him. He's been with Sanford MMA now. I think this was his third camp. And, they've calmed him down a little bit. This guy used to be like a sprinter, coming out, charging hard. And it paid off for him at times. I mean, between Strikeforce and UFC, he had 15 wins. That's very impressive. He had a fight win streak amongst those wins. And his losses, guys, Israel, Adesanya, Ronaldo Jacare, Anderson Silva. That some people still argue that one. A lot of these guys have worn belts in major organizations. Even Yoel Romero, which was more than 5 years ago, still a stud of the game. So, he was an underdog, and I like to play the underdog. So I picked him. But make no mistake, Shabazian's not done at all, man. Shabazian, excuse me. Look at Figueiredo lost that fight to Formiga recently, in the last 3 years, and he came back and he's a world champion. Stefan Struve took out Miocic early in his career. He came back and became a world champion, so he still has potential.
Absolutely. Do you think he's still got what it takes to make it to the top one day, Goze?
I think he does. I think in terms of jumping the gun, I would say no. This kid's got a lot of promise, and he's still going to be a lot better. It's just going to take some time. I think it was a combination of maybe his fitness wasn't where it needed to be for this fight, but also Derek Brunson. Derek Brunson, what he did was, if you look at his record and the guys he's fought, he's given everybody help. But this is the one fight where I think he was able to combine his aggressiveness and just being a little bit patient. And I think it paid off for him. Props to his camp for getting him prepared for that mentally and physically. So really, I think it's just a matter of taking some time off and just really assessing what went wrong in that fight for Edmund. But he definitely has the talent to be something big in the coming years.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how he bounces back from that one. Now, gents, moving on. As you guys all know, being big music fans, Elton John once said that Saturday night's all right for fighting. But let's be honest, Tuesday nights aren't too bad either, because Dana White's Contender series is back and it starts this week. You guys all consume a ton of MMA, UFC, Bellator, One, Rising, Cage Fury Fighting Championships, Cage Warriors, you name it. We've got it all covered here at MMA Junkie. But where does a Contender series rank in your personal hierarchy of MMA shows that you consume on a regular basis? Give us your Contender series verdict so far, guys. Tuesday night fights, are you a fan? 2 minutes on the clock for this one. Goze, you can go first.
Am I a fan? I don't know. I mean, I guess it's all right, guys. But yeah, I would say I'm a pretty big fan of this event. I mean, it just became almost like a routine for us here in Vegas to get down to the PI, go over to the Apex and watch these fights. The fighters, they must love it. They get paid well to do it. A lot of promising guys have come from this. I really, really like it. But at the end of the day, it's 5 fights. And I don't know if I can put a Bellator to the side or a PFL because they give us big cards and there's a lot on the line. But these guys have done an amazing job so far, and I hope it continues.
Yeah, John, I mean, you're right in the thick of it. Every time these guys come back on the Tuesday night, you're there. I mean, what'd you make of this whole season?
Man, I'm ashamed I didn't bring any props, so I feel like I'm not going to make a good point here. But no, listen, I mean, UFC and Bellator, of course, top level, but I love Dana White's Contender Series. I mean, you mentioned a fantastic organization like Cage Fury Fighting Championships. I mean, the regional level is putting people, to the top level, but when Dana White's Contender Series, it happens in an instant. And the other thing is, and Goze touched on it there, the packaging, man, 5 fights in quick fashion, and Tuesday night, early in the week. I don't feel like we're competing with other organizations. So for me, it's a home run all the way around. It's early in the week, and it's in and out. I love it.
George, what do you reckon? Do you get down there sometimes and try and finagle your way into some of these Contender Series fights?
Oh, yeah. I mean, if they had season ticket packages that, I would buy one. Honestly, it is great. I love it. But the hierarchy for me goes UFC, Bellator, and then PFL. PFL, though, is seasonal. So, you have time to basically pull away from it, when they're not just having their weekly events or whatever. But for me, man, yeah, I love that 8 to 10 week run, whatever it is they decide to have. Even in that sweaty gym, that old one that they had, the old Tough Center, it was miserable at times. But I'm telling you, the intensity, them allowing family members, teammates, managers, and just seeing people's dreams come to life, it's great. And then it's got that reality show concept at the end. They're all sitting in that kitchen or whatever, waiting to see who Dana White picks. Love it.
Yeah, it all comes back this week, and we'll have wall-to-wall coverage on MMA Junkie. Let's throw some things forward here and take a look at the top of the UFC featherweight division, guys, where Dana White and his team have got a big decision to make. After 2 close encounters in the first 2 meetings between Alexander Volkanovski and Max Holloway, Dana White said it's pretty hard not to give Holloway another rematch and book the pair for a 3rd straight matchup. However, Volkanovski's got a slightly different view. He said that after winning the first 2, booking a 3rd meeting straight away doesn't really make a lot of sense to him. So where do you guys stand on this one? Should the UFC book Volkanovski versus Holloway 3 for the next title fight at 45? And if not, who should be the next man to step up and challenge Alexander the Great for that 145-pound strap? We'll put 3 minutes on the clock for this one. George, it's your turn to kick off.
All right, look, tomorrow is the 8-year anniversary of a UFC on Fox show in Los Angeles where Dana White said, hey, Shogun, you and Vera, Machida, you and Bader, whoever looks best is getting the shot at the winner of John Jones versus Dan Henderson. Of course, that title fight never came to be, and eventually no one got the next shot because it wound up being Chael Sonnen. But that night, I mean, it was really, really cool because Machida had a great win over Ryan Bader. But then Shogun topped him in the main event when he defeated Ryan Bader. But I feel like you could do something with Korean Zombie and Brian Ortega, which we keep hearing, any minute now, that one's going to be signed. And then Zabit versus Yair Rodriguez. Now, Calvin Kattar might have a problem with that whole setup, but I think he's waiting in the wings. I think he's accepted that loss to Zabit kind of put him off to the side a little bit. But I think those other 4, if they could do something like that, I would love to see it. I don't want to see a 3rd Alex versus Max fight. And that being said, guys, I actually scored it for Max. So it breaks my heart that he's not champ because we could set up that trilogy down the road, but we don't need to see 3 in a row.
All right, guys, what do you reckon? Got to be tight on time for this one.
Listen, I think it does make sense, but the problem is this. The system that's put in place, there's no place for it. It doesn't make sense in that aspect. How can you give a guy that has the 2 losses that chance? I get it. A lot of people had Holloway winning. I was one of those guys as well. But you have to think of it this way. If you do the 3rd fight, what if Holloway wins this one? And what if it's the reverse? People feel Volkanovski wins. Does that mean we have to give him another shot? Like, it's a slippery slope. We can't really do that. We have to look at what's on paper, and on paper, there's a loss there. I'm not saying Max can't ever get this shot again. I'm just saying he can't get it now.
No, that makes a lot of sense. John, what do you reckon? How do you undo all this stitching at 145 pounds?
Yeah, it's a tough spot right now. It's what Calvin Kattar brought up, right? All the top guys at the top of the ranks aren't staying busy. I completely agree. Let's not forget that Dana did say, I understand the position, but I also understand Volkanovski's position. And I think Volkanovski feels a little disrespected by it. I don't think you can do the trilogy right now, maybe down the line a little bit. You got Ortega up there, but he hasn't fought since December 2018. I'd say Zabit is probably next up in line, but it sounds like Zabit has already signed to fight Yair on August 29th. We just haven't heard that Yair is signed. I got to imagine he just got a new management firm. Maybe he's trying to get a new contract in place as well. I don't know. So to me, I think, if Zabit beats Yair Rodriguez, I mean, we're talking 4 weeks from now. It's not that far away. I think we can wait till then because it would probably have to be back on Fight Island anyway because the whole international thing, especially if it's, Zabit versus Volkanovski. So I like Zabit if he wins. If not, I'm going to throw a wild card. Maybe go with Zombie. He's 33 years old. The window's closing. He did have 2 first-round wins in his comeback over Edgar Moicano. It's kind of an outside-the-box pick, but I like that one. It's just tough. Maybe Calvin Kattar can jump all the way up to the top.
Yeah, and if Calvin Kattar doesn't jump all the way to the top, maybe stick him in there with Max Holloway. I like the sound of that fight as well. That would be an absolute banger at 145. So options galore for the matchmakers, and we've got options galore when it comes to our fight choices this weekend. It is a big weekend of fights. Bellator 243 on Friday night at Mohegan Sun. UFC on ESPN Plus 32 on Saturday night at the UFC Apex. So we've got a pivotal matchup between former lightweight champions Michael Chandler and Benson Henderson under the Bellator banner on Friday. Heavyweight sluggers Derek Lewis, Alexei Oleinik going head-to-head on Saturday. Which matchup is the bigger main event, guys? Let us know who it is and let us know why. We'll do 3 minutes just to finish things off. John, you can lead off.
Apologize for looking down right there. I was consulting with my notes. Guys, I did some research on this. It turns out that Derek Lewis and Alexei Oleinik are about 100 pounds heavier than Benson Henderson and Michael Chandler. So there you go. That's the bigger matchup. It's done. It's 500 pounds versus 300 pounds. I'm done. I've ceded my time. No, I'm just kidding. Listen, it is an interesting discussion, right? Because for me, you've got real ranked heavyweights in Derek Lewis and Alexei Oleinik at number 6 and number 15, respectively, in the MMA Junkie rankings, which are really the only rankings you should ever bother looking at anyway. So there you go. Ranked opponents. That's a matchup that means something. But in terms of name value, of course, the former champ in Benson Henderson at the UFC and WC, and then, of course, Michael Chandler and everything he's accomplished in Bellator, I think they might have more name recognition, especially if we're looking at Alexei Oleinik. We all know how dangerous he is, how great he is, but I don't think he has necessarily the fan value, the casual fan representation. So for me, I'm sticking with the UFC fight because it's ranked opponents, but for casuals, I think it's probably the Bellator fight.
What do you reckon, George? You in the Bellator camp or the UFC camp for this one?
Well, of course, the Black Beast is always fun to watch, man. That guy's worth every dollar they pay him. Alexei Oleinik, you got to give him respect. He's been in there with everyone. He puts up battles too. He's just not, I guess, as popular as Derek. And John made some great points there as far as them being ranked opponents. But the historical side of Benson being a WEC champ, a UFC champ, and if he gets this win over Chandler, they're 1-1. I don't know if we'd ever see them again because it sounds like Chandler might be leaving the organization. But still, he would have probably the pole position there for Patricio Freire, their champ over there at Bellator. And then with Chandler, if he were to win, I wonder if he's got a rival in Eddie Alvarez who accomplished being a Bellator champ and a UFC champ, really, really cementing his legacy. So it'd be interesting to see if Chandler chose to do that and also follow in those footsteps. So anyway, after giving you all that, I guess I do side with Chandler and Benson Henderson. I think it just has more historical significance.
Yeah, it's absolutely huge fight at 155 pounds of Bellator. Is that where you're leaning, Goze, or are you leaning more towards the big guys over there in the UFC?
First of all, apologies. I was looking down. I was actually Googling other rankings. I wasn't aware that other people do it. We're pretty much the standard. For me, it's Michael Chandler and Benson Henderson, guys. It's the weirdest thing because these are two of the nicest guys outside of the cage. But Bellator did a great job in putting these two together, and they actually started to chirp at each other. That's when I had the little bit of a turning point. I'm like, man, these guys are actually coming at each other a little bit. There are a lot of rooms for adjustments. If you look at both their games, they both have great games where they can make these type of adjustments. I think it's going to be a fun fight. And don't forget, this could be towards the end of Michael Chandler's run with Bellator. We don't know what a victory could do for him here in Bellator, or perhaps take him somewhere else.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with Michael Chandler after that fight this coming weekend. Business is beginning to pick up now. All the big promotions are back up and running. Contender Series is back up and running as well. And some of the top regional shows are getting ready to get back into the mix too. It means we have got a load of news, features, reports, and reaction coming your way on MMA Junkie each and every week as we bring you bang up to date on all the goings on in this crazy world of MMA. Big thank you, as always, to John Morgan, to Gorgeous George, and to Goze for joining me this week, and chiefly to yourselves for checking out Spinning Back Clique this week. We will be back next week with even more on Spinning Back Clique.